So now we come to creating the main subroutines, which will be executed when the user clicks on the Create Document button. So as always, we'll begin by selecting the button and double-clicking on it to generate the event handler. The tasks that will be performed when the button is clicked fall into two main categories. First of all, we have the steps required to actually generate the document. So we open each of the documents, we take the first paragraph and insert it as our header. So of course we'll have to insert a new section for each document opened. Close the document and repeat for all other documents in the specified folder. So that's the first set of tasks, and then we'll need to style the document to find all the headers and apply the heading 1 and heading 2 styles, and then we use those styles to generate a table of contents at the start of the document. So what I'm going to do is to create two sub-procedures. So we'll need to call those two sub-procedures from this event handler. We'll also need to hide the form. It's not essential, but stylistically it's perhaps going to look better from the user's point of view. So me.hide, and then I'm going to call two sub-procedures. So let's say that the first one's going to be build document, and the second can be styles and table of contents, TOC. Now of course we hide the form, but it's still in memory, so once we've done those two subroutines we can unload the form, so unload me. Another thing that's quite nice from the user point of view is to switch off screen updating, so application.screenUpdating equals false, and we can switch it on again here. Okay, so in this video we'll tackle the first series of steps in this subroutine, and then we'll do this one in a separate video. So let me begin by creating those two subroutines. So I'm just going to use Control Drag, Shift and Tab to move them back, and then change this word to sub and this word to sub. Okay, so in the build document, let's begin by creating some variables. So in terms of text, we'll need range variables, and the key thing is really to grab the text that's going to be used as a header. So let's create dim RNG header as range, and then the header and footer objects actually share the same object. So let's define one for the header, one for the footer. So dim HDR new as header, or header footer I should say, and then dim FTR new as header footer. We'll also need to loop through the elements in our list box, so I'm going to use a for next loop for that. So dim I as long. So that's our variables. Now let's just put down the steps that we'll be performing. First of all, we'll need to create the output document. Then we'll need to add a new section for the TOC, the table of contents. And then comes the loop. Inside the loop, we start by opening each document. We copy the first paragraph. We then add a new section for the document we're about to import, and we set up our headers and footers. So we set the header to the first paragraph, and we set the footer to the page number. Finally, we import the entire document, and then we can close the document. Okay, so the first step, create output document. If you remember, we defined a module level document variable earlier. That was for the import document. We can now do the same for the new document we're about to create, because we'll be manipulating it from more than one sub-procedure. So again, private mdoc, and this time we'll just call it new as document. So here, to create the output document, we're obviously going to be setting that variable. So we set it to documents.add. So now we need to add a new section so that we can have the table of contents separated from the documents that we're importing, and that's simply m.new.range.sections.add. So now we use a for loop to loop through the documents. So for I equals 0, because we're looping through the elements in the list box to get to the documents, and the list index starts at 0. So it's 0 to me.lstdocs.listCount, and then because the index starts at 0, we subtract 1. And I'll just go down to the bottom of this section and close my for loop with a next I. So step 1 inside the loop is to open each document, and of course we'll simultaneously create a reference to the document inside mdoc_import. So set mdoc_import equal to documents.open, and to build the file path, so we'll say file name :equals, we start with gstr folder, and we use ampersand to then tag on a backslash, followed by the text from our list box, so me.lstdocs.list_I, and that will pick up the index as we loop through. We have started at 0, and then finally, because we removed .txt, we just put it back on, space underscore to break the line, and then we'll reinstate as we did before, visible : equals false. So now we copy the first paragraph of the document we've opened into RNG header, which of course is still an object variable, so set RNG header equal to mdoc_import.paragraphs1.range. Then we repeat this command to add a new section for the document that we're importing, and we can now use our header and footer variables and then populate the header and footer with the appropriate text. So we're still talking objects, so set, let's do the header, so that was hdr new, and we want to set that to the primary header of the last section of the document, the section that we've effectively just added to the document. So that's mdoc_new.sections, and to say the last section we simply use the count, so mdoc_new.sections.count. Within that last section we then want the headers, and here the IntelliSense gives us the 3 possible headers that we can have, and we want the primary. Then very importantly, because we're going to have a unique header in each section, we have to break the link to the previous header. So hdr new.link to previous we set to false. And finally, we set the text, which we copied earlier inside RNG header, we set the footer to that text. So hdr_new.range.text equals RNG header.text. Now we come to set the footer, but this time we don't really need a separate unique footer for each section. We simply want to have the page number in the footer of all sections. So really we only need to set the footer once, and we can do that by setting the footer when I, our counter, is equal to 0, the starting value. So we can say if I equals 0, then we set ftr_new equal to the primary footer of the last section, which is m.new.sections, and to say the last, as we saw before, m.new.sections.count, and then we want .footers wd header footer primary. And to add the page number, we simply say ftr_new.pagenumbers.add, and if we want to center that up, we use the page number alignment parameter, page number alignment, and this takes a constant which we could obviously look up, and that's wd align page number center. End if, and then to import the entire document we use m.new.range, which means all the text in m.new, .insert after, and what we're inserting is the entire text from the imported document, so m.import .range.text, and finally we close m.import, and let's set save changes to false. So that's it. We can save, and to test we just go into our macro, and let's just leave everything and create the document. Here's the new file that's been generated. So we've got a blank at the start there. And that all seems to be working. The only thing I'm not happy about is the fact that we've got a page number on the first couple of pages, and we can probably get rid of that simply by adding in link to previous equals false. So I'm just going to copy that line down, control drag, and just change that to ftr_new. And let's then test that again. So this time we have no page number until the first document that we've imported, and our page number starts from there. So that's good to go. Let's close that down, and in our next video we'll tackle the styles and TOC.